In my opinion, there's only one thing more satisfying than wearing a t-shirt of your own design, and that is not wearing pants. But they won't let me put that on YouTube, so we'll do the shirt thing today. G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and I love making t-shirts. It's something I've only started to do this year and something I look forward to doing moving into the future. And already in my process of learning to design t-shirts, there are a whole bunch of little tips and tricks that have helped me along the way, and it's also something that I've studied a little bit more to learn more about. And I thought I'd share some of the best practices that I've learned. So this video is essentially going to be in two parts. The first part being the best practices part, and the second part being my step-by-step process and how I produce the actual designs in Photoshop, but it's also applicable in other programs. Before we jump into it, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Skillshare.com, an awesome website with over 14,000 classes in illustration and design and more, and of course, t-shirt stuff. So if you want to sink your teeth into learning things like how to do screen printing yourself or how to design for screen printing, learning other design elements for your t-shirts like elements of typography and other design approaches that you can take, I highly recommend Skillshare.com. They put together an awesome special for Draw with Jazza viewers where you can use the coupon code JAZZA'S2 and get yourself 2 months of free premium Skillshare, enabling full and unlimited access to the website and all of their courses, so you can sink your teeth into things like shirt design or all of their other stuff. I have a course on Skillshare on how to be a YouTuber that I made that's like over 2 hours long, and I go in depth in all that stuff. It's a great place to teach and to learn, and I highly recommend it. The links are in the card and in the description. So let's go through some best practices of t-shirt design, and this can range from things like design tips to how to approach designing for a t-shirt. And the first thing is the message of the shirt. That might sound like a weird thing to say, but a t-shirt is a badge of identity. Do you want your t-shirt to be loved and adored by nerds everywhere, or have an inside joke that only people within a certain niche or subculture will get? Do you want it to reference pop culture or be broadly enjoyable? Do you want it to be a really narrow and personal or emotionally inspiring shirt? Whatever your angle is, the first question you answer should be, what is the message of this shirt and how can I best convey it? It sounds like a no-brainer, but it's really important to consider, because one of the key aspects of designing your shirts is simplicity, and you want to convey that message as simply and clearly and attractively as possible. Next, I want to touch on a few little design aspects that I find really useful, and that is the idea of designing in a V taper, a V sort of shape, and in line with that, also positioning in what I'll call the superhero logo area. There is a reason that Superman's crest is shaped the way it is and positioned exactly where it is, because the eye is drawn towards it, because it complements his anatomy and physique. But it's not just Superman that this look is flattering for, it's people in general. When you're going for a little bit more of a slimming or appealing look, and also something that isn't distracting, you want something that's clear and visible, complementary, but not obnoxious. A random logo on the side or a corner of a shirt is more distracting than appealing. And more of a bottom-heavy shape rather than a V-tapered shape is less flattering to a physique than the V-taper shape. So it's just better to keep that in mind in general if you're trying to create a shirt that you feel people will be comfortable in. I will mention though, with the idea of the whole V-taper thing, to not get too groin pointy, unless I guess that's the message of your shirt. Maybe I should make that shirt and wear it when I'm not wearing pants. My next best practice design tip is keep your message simple, and I'm referring specifically to the design. The first thing that the eye is drawn towards should be the easiest thing to understand and should be the most important part of conveying that message. For example, if you're designing a shirt for a sports team, the name of the team should be really easily legible and placed in an appealing position. And then if you have a whole bunch of crest stuff or details or little cool things, that's all sort of gravy. It should complement your main key message or your main design feature, but really you want to make sure that the thing that the eye is first drawn towards is the thing that most clearly and appealingly conveys the message. Next tip, let's talk about colors. Less is more. In fact, some of the nicest shirts I've seen, or the more memorable shirts I've seen, usually have under 5 or 4 colors. Quite often just 2 or even 1. Designing for a t-shirt isn't like just designing a website or an illustration. It's about finding the perfect balance of simplicity and appeal. There are, of course, exceptions to all of these rules that I'm sharing in this video, but this is just sort of a basic guide to how to get started and think about shirt design. Also, when you're thinking about colors, tend to work with flatter colors rather than too many gradients, both because gradients can be distracting and also unpredictable in how they print if you're using a digital printing method. Screen printing, which I won't go into in this video, is capable of producing gradients, but also in a way that's a little more complicated and also sometimes unpredictable. So in general, flatter colors are always safer and tend to be more appealing anyway. Once again, less is more, so too many bright and obnoxious colors, unless, again, that is the point of the design or the message, can be a little bit overwhelming. And then beyond that, you also really want to make sure that in your whole design process, you're considering the color of the shirt. If anything, the color of the shirt is the most important thing. What colors will your design go on, and how does your design complement those colors? The next little practical best practice tip I'll give is to always test in context. You want to see what your logo or your design looks like on a shirt. So whether it be in a graphics program where you have a t-shirt and you're putting your logo onto it to see what it looks like, or of course on websites like Teespring where you can upload your design and see it in context. Do this not only when you feel like you've finalized your design, but do this from the beginning and conceptualization and refinement process of your design, so you can constantly see it, step back, process, and continue to iterate and refine your design. Which brings me to my next point, which is iterate and revise and refine. Your first t-shirt design idea might be a great idea in your head, but you may not know the best way to convey it visually. In my experience, and in many professional people's experience, the first thing you make is rarely the final product. Allow yourself to constantly step back, look at your design, reshape it, and even try different things that you hadn't have thought of or might not even think will work. Let yourself be loose and free-flowing and allow things to take shape organically rather than sticking rigidly to what you think is the best idea ever. Unless it is the best idea ever, in which case, still do what I'm telling you. And the very last best practice tip I will give is, once you have what you feel is your final design, do what I will call the wearability test. That is to ask yourself, will I wear this? Will I actually wear it in public? And ask a friend to take a look at your design and ask them, would you wear this? It sounds like a simple, straightforward thing, but sometimes I don't think we even ask ourselves that when we put something out there. And then asking someone else if they would wear it negates the idea of them needing to be a designer to give you valid feedback. Take, for example, this shirt, which I made for July because a new season of Game of Thrones is coming out, which I'm super excited for, and I love art supplies, so pop culture references, win-win. This is what the design ended up like, and I'm really happy with it, but this wasn't actually what I thought was going to be my final design. In fact, I went through this whole process and my finished design looked like this. Now, because I had been working on it for hours, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was a cool t-shirt, or I guess I thought I would wear it, but then I asked my wife what she thought of it, and she thought it was a peacock. And then I thought, yeah, you're not wrong. The colors were too obnoxious, it wasn't clear visually what it was or what it was meant to be or be referencing. So by muting back all the colors and keeping that steely gray but still the general color tones that pencils have, I ended up with something that I was way happier with than I thought I could be or that I thought it would become, because I asked someone what they thought of it. So shed yourself of your elitism, realize we are our own worst critics and we're personally very biased for or against ourselves. Ask for other people's feedback and listen to it. They don't have to be designers to know if they would wear something or if it feels or looks good to look at. With the exception, of course, of your mother, because it doesn't matter what you show her, she's going to tell you that she wants 5 of them and that you're the best t-shirt designer ever. Though I wouldn't mind a little bit of feedback from your mum, if you know what I mean. Especially when I got no pants on. Let's move on to part 2 of the video. This is my personal step-by-step process when it comes to designing a t-shirt. So I'm going to go through with you the steps that I went through to end up with this t-shirt design that I was really happy with. I wanted to make this shirt because it's a phrase I realized years after having said it nearly every video, that it's something I say a lot and I think is a really fun and nice creative mantra, and I thought it might make a nice t-shirt. So this is Photoshop, where where I made the t-shirt design in, and this is how it started out. I just hand drew a very scribbly version of what I thought it might look like, and I went through different sketchy versions, and this is the one I thought looked kind of cool and I wanted to test in context. Again, the previous iterations were no fancier than this and didn't take longer than, you know, a few seconds to do each. So in Photoshop, basically I have a white layer in the background, and I also have a layer underneath for a color that I might picture this on for a t-shirt. But once I had the rough positioning and the sketch version in a place that I was kind of happy with, basically what I like to do is make all of my background layers invisible so that I have a transparent background and just the image that I sketched. And then I like to open up a new Photoshop file like this with a picture of a t-shirt that I can drag my sketched logo onto. So this is my shirt that says I really like the way that turned out. It's a Photoshop file. I can just click and drag that into my other Photoshop file, and I can resize that, position it within the boundaries in a place I like. And this is what is called a smart object. And it's really cool because it means that I can go into my previous file. Let's say, for example, I want to change the color of this sketch just to illustrate what I'm trying to show you. I can save this, and then when I head over to my other Photoshop file that I just opened up, you can see that it's applied those changes. So that's really useful because it means you can work on your design specifically, make changes and alterations, then pop over to your other Photoshop file and see it in context, which is really useful. I also like to set this file up so that it has a number of different layers with a bunch of different shirt colors, so that if I plan on making a design where I'll be flexible with the shirts that it shows on, I can see what it doesn't show on particularly well for example, green on green, and ones where I think it does look nice, be it grays or blues. Anyways, you get the idea. When I was happy with the really rough sketch concept, I turned the opacity of that layer down, and on the layer above it, did a more refined sketch. So this is the more refined sketch that I ended up with, and when I was happy with that, I applied a color effect just to make it black so it stood out a bit more, and then I could save that, jump over to my shirt references and see that in context, like you can see here. And I was starting to feel pretty happy with this, and then I wanted to take this and work on it as a vector. Now I could have done the whole thing in Photoshop. It doesn't really make a difference because the end result is always just a transparent PNG, but I wanted to work on it as a vector because I wanted to be able to really tweak the word art and some actual fonts and text that I wanted to use to create this. So I moved on to Adobe Animate. For those of you who are elitist and are all like, oh, I make my vectors in Adobe Illustrator. Well, I animated in Flash for 10 years and I'm an old dog who won't learn new tricks, so I make my vector art in Animate. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. So I took my default sketch and ended up with something that looked like this. And for the more handwritten area, like really and the word that, and even the word like, I handmade the text. I just sort of drew it all out. And then for the other words, I used actual fonts, some of which I tweaked a bit. I ended up happy with the wording and the positioning. You'll notice though that I ditched the pencil and went with this fountain pen. That's because I took that advice that I mentioned earlier on, got my wife to look at it and said, what do you think so far? And she goes, that pencil pointing down right there looks awfully phallic, which takes me back to that earlier best practice tip of not being too penisy in your V-taper. So my wife suggested the idea of having an angled pen like this and adding some cursive lines, which I added there. And then when I hired that sketch at the back, it turned out to be something I was just way happier with than my initial slightly more phallic design. It was unintentionally phallic, okay? I wonder what Freud would say about that. He'd probably have something to say about why I keep talking about not wearing pants. So once I was happy with my vector art, I exported this as a transparent background PNG and then brought that into Photoshop in place of the sketch art that I did, which I can now hide. And this is almost the final version, albeit one change was made, and that was that I turned the fountain pen into a brush. I don't know, it felt more relatable for some reason. I don't think I know anyone who's ever used a fountain pen. So anyways, hiding my background, I can save this, go into my shirt reference file and see this in context on a whole bunch of different colors and decide what colors I would like to make it in, if I either want to make it for myself or other people. And that basically brings me to the end of my process. Now, once again, I am not an expert. I'm still learning and I've been doing a handful of shirts and really enjoying it. And I'm really hoping that this video condenses a lot of those best practice tips for you and helps give you a bit of a process that I personally use that is pretty straightforward and enjoyable to make your own shirt designs without too much pain or hassle. I've found a surprising passion in making these t-shirts, and even though I've just started to get into it, I hope that this video and its best practices and the steps that I follow are helpful to you. Though I'm still learning, it's the process I follow, and I'm really enjoying the process because there's something about making something tangible that you wear and enjoy, or that others wear and enjoy. It's like a badge of nerdy pride and identity. It's really cool. So go have fun and all the best of luck with your own t-shirt designs, and of course make sure to go check out Skillshare if you want to learn from the masters. Once again, with that coupon code JAZZA'S2, you can get 2 months of free Skillshare premium membership and watch as many courses as you want. And if you're interested in something like t-shirt design or anything else, be it business management or craft or animation or graphic design, Skillshare is an amazing place both to learn and participate in projects and to teach your own courses. So a huge thank you to Skillshare for being a part of this community, providing that discount, and of course sponsoring this video. And thank you for watching. And I bet you couldn't even tell I wasn't wearing pants this entire time. Or was I? You'll never know. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos. And while you're at it, check out my shop where I sell ebooks, brushes, photo references, video courses, and more. There's another video you might enjoy from my channel over there, and you can also check out my behind the scenes daily vlog channel, Daily Jazza. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.